at least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.
Number one is number one.
1,000 miles away from me. Hello and welcome to the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast, where we talk about three things: faith, sports, and leadership. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Lutz, joined as always by my co-host and brother, Drew Lutz. Drew, how are you doing today?
Can't complain, man. Beautiful day out. I'm excited about our guest today.
Yeah, I'm excited about our guest as well. Jealous of both of you as you both are joining us from the beautiful Sarasota, Florida. Our guest today, I'm excited not only because you guys are both in Florida, but also because this is a former coach of mine. He is also Drew's boss and the head coach of where Drew is coaching right now. He is one of the most connected college basketball coaches in the country. He and his family have made an incredible impact on me and my family, and now they are impacting Drew and his wife, Katie, as well. And so super excited to have him join us. I'm going to go through his resume really quickly before we introduce him, just some of his coaching experience. He found his way into the coaching world at Northland International University, then traveled down to Florida, coaching some high school basketball at Dr. Phillips High School, then at Rockford University, then over to Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. Found his way to Bethel University in Indiana, where he coached me. After that, he got his first head coaching gig at Lancaster Bible College out in Pennsylvania, finding his way to the Division I level at Stetson University as an assistant coach under the legendary Donnie Jones. And then now he is entering into his second season as the head coach at New College of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to introduce our guest today, Coach Andrew Wingreen. Wingreen, welcome to the podcast.
Man, thanks so much for having me. It's been fun listening to you guys get this podcast up and running, and obviously have enjoyed my relationship with both of you guys, and so really excited to be here and excited for to have a good conversation today.
We are excited as well, and obviously Drew is going to be watching his mouth as you have the option to fire him if he says anything too outlandish. So Drew, watch your mouth today. And I'm just kidding. But the way that this podcast works, for those of you who have not listened before, we're so glad you're joining us. We talk about three things: faith, sports, and leadership. We break down each podcast into three different sections. And this first section is the faith section, where we're going to go through, typically we go through a verse or two, a short discussion, and then we talk about some different applications we can take from it. And today we are going to be reading from the book of Hebrews. Hebrews 12 verse 11 is what we're actually going to be reading from. And so this is what it says. I'll read it twice and then we'll discuss. Hebrews 12 verse 11. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. That's Hebrews 12:11. I'll read it one more time and then we'll discuss. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Drew, as you read through that verse, Hebrews 12, verse 11, what are some initial thoughts or examples that you have with that verse?
Yeah, instantly it makes me think of mistakes I made in the past and how I had consequences for it. And in the moment, it seemed like I was getting punished or it wasn't fair. But when I look back and see the growth from where I used to be to where I am now, still got a lot of room to grow, but realizing that in those moments, I was trying to get helped out instead of getting punished.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wingreen, what are some thoughts that you have from that verse?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a powerful verse, and there's one quote that I'd always heard kind of growing up and through high school, through college, where it says, never sacrifice what you want most for what you want for the moment. And I think a lot of times, in life, and especially sports, are a great place to, to learn a lot of these lessons. But, you go through a lot of hard times, whether it's, discipline from your parents, discipline from your coach, self-discipline with, how you're handling your own business. It could be working out, it could be practicing, it could be just trying to really improve in your craft, whatever it might be. But a lot of times when those hard moments come and when things don't go the way we want and that moment feels difficult, it's easy to run. It's easy to kind of just throw in the towel and say, man, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want. This isn't worth it. But that quote, never sacrifice what you want most for what you want for the moment. And I think that verse just, speaks volumes to that, through the discipline, through the hard times, God is always at work. God uses different trials in our life. He uses different, the ups and the downs to ultimately bring together his purpose, for something better. And I think that if we have faith in that and we truly believe those words, when those moments get hard, it gives us that ability to just kind of lock in and see past it, see how it's gonna make my life better down the road. So I know there's been so many instances like that for me in my life, and I've had them personally, from a coaching side of things, from a parent side of things. I've had to be the one that gives discipline. But it's really cool to see how God uses all those situations for good, and kind of brings everything together.
Yeah, that's really good. Just to kind of piggyback off of that, when you think of discipline, what comes to mind? I mean, is discipline just a parent yelling at a kid, or like grounding a kid, or a coach making players run? Like what is discipline, Wingreen, to you? What is the overall, like, what is the bigger picture when it comes to discipline?
It's a great question. I feel like that could go really deep. I think just off the top of my head, discipline is, it's this self-control. It's this ability to understand what your purpose is. And, especially when you're handing out discipline, like, usually you've been there, you've done that, you've had the experience, you've kind of seen how things work in life. And so you're able to understand, well, if I put this discipline out there, I hold this person to this standard, and you know, kind of put this over their head. You know how to guide them through that. You know how to work them through that. You know the steps to take. And so, for me, like, when I've been on the other end of it, getting disciplined or having to discipline myself, I think scripture is powerful in that way, because that's how, God gives us those steps of, when those moments get hard, how do we get to the next thing? Like, I think it's just this mindset and this trust of, there's something more. What is the process? How do I control this from my own self, and how do I lean on God for that discipline? And I don't know, it's kind of, I don't even know if that makes sense, but to me, it's just this ability to kind of lock in, see a bigger purpose, understand your purpose, and understand that discipline is just a part of that, and it's something we just have to go through, and ultimately will lead us to a better place.
Yeah, that answered very, very clearly. It came to mind an image that I heard at a leadership conference once. Water without banks is just still, and still water turns into bacteria and all this stuff. But water with banks and with clear, concise boundaries actually turns into a stream of water, and that gets flowing and stuff like that. And so if you're, like you're saying, pursuing your purpose, if you don't have any discipline, then you're going to end up just being still water, and that's not going to turn into a good situation. But if you have those discipline, those things in place, then you're going to find yourself pursuing that purpose like a stream of water going. That was really good. Thanks for sharing that, fellas. That was our faith section for this podcast. As you might know, just from previous episodes, there'll still be faith sprinkled in here and there through some of our answers, but we're going to be heading into our sports section of the Faith, Sports, and Leadership podcast. And to get us started, what I wanted to give us an opportunity to do is just give some sports shout outs. Who are some teams or some players that you want to give a shout out to, and really just let the listeners know how good this team or this individual is. And Wingreen, we will start with you, because I assume I'm going to disagree with whoever you shout out, but that's okay.
I mean, if there's any knock on your podcast, there's not a lot. You guys do a great job, but if there's any, criticism that I can give, it's that your team affiliations are questionable. Another thing that I don't always love about the podcast is I don't hear you guys talk about baseball a lot. And so the shout out that I want to give is to the Milwaukee Brewers, because I don't know, Brewers made the playoffs. They lost game one in the wild card, tough loss, made some mistakes, kind of threw the game away. Came back from, a deficit last night, and there's a guy, Jackson Churio. I don't know if a lot of the listeners know who Jackson Churio is, but he's the youngest player on MLB roster, and hit 2 home runs last night, hit the game tying home run, and just created a lot of momentum. And it was really fun to watch, the home crowd just get behind them, the momentum. And one cool thing I love about sports is how momentum and energy just changed the dynamic of everything that was happening and how it is going to happen going forward. And yeah, so my shout out would be to the Milwaukee Brewers. We got game 3 tonight to see if we can make it to the NLDS against the Phillies. And I know for you guys too, well, I don't know, Ryan, if you're there it is, the Detroit Tigers. They're also on a little roll right now. So it's fun to watch these teams who nobody really expects to do anything. And they kind of come out of nowhere and make waves.
Yeah, that's good. I can't disagree with you on the Brewers. They're fun team. I remember watching the Brewers when they were really good. Prince Fielder was there, Ryan Braun. Like they had some good teams. And so it's fun to see them back. By the time our listeners are listening to this is getting released on the Friday after. Hopefully, Brewers. We will know. So hopefully we will be celebrating a Milwaukee win. As a Tigers fan, yes, you guys have the youngest player in baseball. We have the youngest roster in baseball, and we've already advanced out of the wild card series. So it is fun. Baseball's fun. I like the pitch clock and all that stuff. It's a fun game to watch. Drew, what about you? Who's your sports shout out for today?
Yeah, I got a shout out. Detroit Lions wearing the all black uniforms. That created the hype for the game, and then Jared Goff going 18 for 18. It was a fun game. That running back duo, they're elite. David Montgomery is running through people, but Detroit Lions.
Those uniforms were pretty sick. The blue helmets with those were tough. So I'll give you that for sure.
Hey, the North is back. I mean, we got a good division there. And so, yeah, the Lions are fun to watch. Goff catching a touchdown pass too. That's impressive. For me, my sports shout out, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, and then we're going to hop into some more sports talk. So I want to give a shout out to someone who I think is one of, if not the most underrated quarterback in the history of the NFL. He is a Super Bowl champion. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback. He has moved around the league quite a bit. He had a great college career as well, and yet most people don't know who he is. And that is my good wannabe. I wish I was a good friend of him, but I'm a big fan of his, and that is Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is currently the backup quarterback for Aaron Rodgers in New York. He has traveled he was played for the Jets, the Giants, the Chargers, the Browns, the Ravens, the Bills. And just to set the stage here, and this is the reason I'm talking about it, this week, my wife's a teacher, and she has been, it's been Spirit Week at her week for homecoming coming up, and they had Jersey Day. And I have a ton of jerseys, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, all these types of jerseys, and she gets my big pile out. And one of my nicest jerseys that I have is a vintage, nice, authentic Buffalo Bills Tyrod Taylor number 5 jersey, and she grabs it and she puts it on, and she doesn't know who Tyrod. Like she's heard me talk about Tyrod, but she doesn't know who he is. And so she asked me. I gave her the Wikipedia page answer of who Tyrod is in case her students ask. And she goes to school, and 2 of her coworkers, who granted are Detroit Lions fans, both are wearing Lions jerseys, so kudos to them. They're great people. They were asking her, Sarah, why are you wearing a Tyrod Taylor jersey? And they just didn't understand the emphasis that the impact that he's had on the NFL, on great quarterbacks throughout the NFL, and that he's good. He's a good player. He won a Super Bowl in Baltimore. Yes, he was the backup to Joe Flacco, but he won a game in the regular season to get them to where they were going. He then goes to Buffalo as the 3rd-string quarterback as he's coming in, earns the starting job throughout the summer, takes Buffalo to the playoffs, gets into the Pro Bowl, all this stuff. Then, of course, they end up drafting Josh Allen, so he gets kind of shipped out, goes over to Cleveland, and then they draft Baker Mayfield, so he gets kind of shipped out, goes over to Los Angeles, they get Justin Herbert, he kind of gets shifted out. And so he's kind of been overshadowed by some really high draft picks, but he's been a great quarterback for so long. So I just want to give a shout out to Tyrod. If anyone on this podcast that knows Tyrod Taylor, tell him he is appreciated in the Lutz household. I have his jersey. Love to have him as a guest on the podcast. But Tyrod Taylor, he's great. He also, I guess I'll just tell you, the big reason I'm a big fan of him, I had him as my starting quarterback my freshman or sophomore year of college on my fantasy team when he was starting for the Bills, and I won the Fantasy Football League that year. So he's a winner through and through. So just want to give him his flowers as we go. I don't want to hear your guys' rebuttal on Tyrod Taylor at all. I know you guys both respect him, so I'm just not going to even – we're going to move on to what's next. So what's next is –
hold on really quick. I don't have a rebuttal, but on the topic of fantasy football, we have a fantasy football league on our team. I actually play Drew this week, I believe. But
Wow.
I don't know if you want to ask Drew how many wins he has in fantasy football this year or not. I don't want to really embarrass him too bad, but you want to
Drew.
say
Yeah,
Drew?
I'm currently 0-4. I drafted Christian McCaffrey first,
Tough.
and since then it's just the team morale hasn't been there, and you can see it on their face, and they're just not playing good together.
Well, Drew, to say I'm disappointed would be an understatement. Wingreen, you gotta start whipping this guy into shape a little bit. He needs to know that part of being a good college basketball coach is having a good fantasy football team. So,
Just the secret is drafting a lot of Green Bay Packer players.
well, all right. With that note, we're going to move on to what's next. As you guys talk about your team fantasy football league, I want you guys to pretend that I am a recruit that you are trying to sell on New College of Florida basketball. Tell me what separates New College, why recruits or parents of recruits or people should buy into the New College of Florida Mighty Banyans basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, first year as an official member of the NAIA and in the Sun Conference down here, there's just a lot of excitement joining one of the best leagues in the country. Obviously, you guys up there are familiar with the Crossroads League, and I think, that's kind of been the pinnacle of NAIA basketball for a long time, and the Sun Conference is making its way there, and we're really excited about the competition we get to play. But I think the special thing about, New College of Florida is just our emphasis on growing you as a person, growing you as a man. Like, winning is really important. We want to put a lot of effort and work into winning and competing on the floor, but I'm a firm believer that, having the right people with us, having the right staff, the right players, being able to have conversations about things deeper than basketball, I think all that stuff translates directly to winning. And those are the things that lead to winning, is when we can take care of, ourselves and our hearts and our minds. And so, that's been a really cool thing about, having Drew with us is, having people like that, like-minded individuals who bring something different to the table, but we all have the same direction, the same vision, the same purpose. So, players who come in to be a part of this program are going to get, they're going to get a lot more than just being coached in basketball. And it's kind of my hope and my prayer that, they'll see that and they'll grow from it. And through all that, we'll find ways to have some fun on the court as well. But it's a fun place to be. Obviously, Sarasota, Florida is one of the best places in the country, just as far as living goes. I mean, so many beaches and the sun shines pretty much every day of the year. And so there's no better place to come be a part of something special. And, we talk a lot about being on an adventure here, because adventures are things you do with people you love, and they're exciting and they're fun. And so this whole thing has been an adventure for us. And, we just try and find the best people possible who can come alongside that vision and mission and get us to the next level. So it's a fun place to be right now.
That's awesome. Drew, what do you have to, as an assistant coach, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I mean, not including basketball, just the campus itself. Like, Wingreen had me sold on the culture and everything he was trying to build, and then just the cherry on top was coming here, seeing the campus, and like we have the bayfront part of our campus. It's just, you look out, you see the water, and it's just beautiful. But yeah, it's been awesome. I think learning from this guy has been really special for me. Understanding basketball, although it's awesome and it's what we're here to do, but it's not the most important thing. Like he talked about, we want to grow as men, not only our players, but he's helped me as a person, and he's helping our other coaches as well. So it's kind of like we're doing life together, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's great. You clearly you're building something good. I mean, Drew, as a two-time NAIA All-American, a former Division I basketball player, entering into the coaching world to buy into the culture and stuff down there. Some of the transfers you've been able to bring in, but then also some of the guys that you're being able to bring in. It's fun to see. I'm excited to see you guys continue to build. And yeah, that Sun Conference is tough. Andrew, I think when I was playing for you, we went down to Florida and played a couple of Sun Conference teams, I believe. And it's always a battle. It's always a battle. And so I'm excited to see you guys compete there.
I think when we came down, when I was at Bethel, we played at Kaiser. if I'm not mistaken, it was like a 2 or 3 overtime game. I remember. I think you had a really good game that day, hit a lot of big shots, and it was just kind of back and forth. And so, yeah, I remember that was a really fun time, and uh, hopefully we'll have some more of those battles with teams from Indiana coming here soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do remember that. It was a 3 overtime game because I missed a buzzer beater at the end of regulation, the end of the first overtime, the end of the second overtime, and then finally hit one at the end of the third overtime. And but hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Michael Scott, Michael Jordan. So Wayne Gretzky, whoever said it. So yes, thank you for bringing up that memory of going 1 for 4 on game winners in a game. Not many people can say that. Not many people can say that in one game, going 1 for 4 on
You
game
hit
winners.
plenty of big shots in your career, so we can give you.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, with that, if you guys want to learn more about New College of Florida and New College of Florida basketball, go check out Drew and Coach Wingreen's social medias. Go to New College of Florida, Google New College of Florida Athletics. You'll find out about the mighty Banyans and their incredible academic facilities down there, just incredible campus, and just building something really special down there. So learn more about them, New College of Florida, and the mighty Banyan basketball team. With that, Wingreen, I'd love to ask you a couple of questions just about your journey and how you've gotten to where you're at, and just starting with why basketball? What made you fall in love with the game of basketball? But you want to become a coach. Obviously, you're knowledgeable about baseball. You have bad opinions about football, but that's okay. So, but what about basketball has separated it? What made you kind of go through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, basketball has just been something that's always been part of my life. My entire family, my aunts and uncles, they were all coaches. And so I think even growing up, although it wasn't on my mind to be a coach then, I just was always around the game, always, watching them coach. I was playing, and I loved it. I was good at it. And so, growing up too, like I'm going to show my age, but watching Michael Jordan and had Michael Jordan posters in my room, and had the little Tykes hoop that I'd always have dunk contests on, and do the Chicago Bulls starting lineup, play the songs, all that stuff. Like it was just a love of mine, and so I think it was naturally there. But as far as coaching, I have a heart disease, and so ended up having 3 open heart surgeries and had a pacemaker implanted, and going through that process, ultimately basketball was taken away from me, and it definitely kind of rocked my world and made me mad at the world, bitter at different people, and I was just kind of searching like for what I wanted to do. And thankfully in my freshman and sophomore year in college, I had 2 coaches who kind of came alongside, and they helped me see what coaching is and the bigger purpose behind it, and kind of modeled how I want to do things with discipling others and showing them a bigger picture for life. And that was such a powerful moment and time in my life, in college. And so that was kind of when I really, I had started thinking about coaching before that, but once I had people in my life who mentored me, it really said, man, this is what I want to do. And I had a heart for, for that college age kid, for those guys who are trying to figure out life, and they're trying to get to the next point, getting married, having kids, and figuring out what they want to do. And I know my life was changed at that point, and it was because of coaches. And so it was a way I could stay in the game, and I could still be a part of it, and use my knowledge and my love and my passion to impact others. And ultimately, I think God just put that calling on my heart. And at points in my career, I've tried to run away from that because it's a hard profession. And sometimes I've questioned if this is really what I want to do, or, should I be doing something else? But time and time again, God just keeps putting that call on my heart and saying, your job is to impact others through the game of basketball. So I think that's, in short, the answer of why basketball has been such a love of my life.
That's awesome. And kind of piggybacking off that, I'm going to dance around some of these questions I sent you over. We'll get to all of them, but you talk about your heart disease and just and then also the grind of being a coach. Overcoming adversity is something that you constantly are having to do, whether it be in the minutia of overcoming a bad practice or a tough loss, or it be to the grand scheme of things of finding a job or dealing with health stuff. What are some keys to overcoming adversity?
Yeah, I think for me, thankfully, God was able to get a hold of my heart. And, I think I didn't always handle adversity very well. Like I kind of said, I got bitter. I would get mad. I'd get frustrated. I'd point blame, right? Like if I couldn't play because of my heart, it was God's fault. If I couldn't play because of my heart, it was the doctor's fault. Or like, man, why are my parents not letting me do this? Like it was always someone else's fault. And I didn't always know how to handle that. And I think the more I grew as a Christian and the more I grew in faith, like, kind of like we talked about earlier, just I saw how God was putting different things together. And eventually you start seeing those things being used in your life. And you start developing this mindset of where to put your trust, where to put your faith. And ultimately, like my identity started to shift from, okay, I'm a basketball player, I'm a student, I'm a, whatever my identity was wrapped up in. It went from that to I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And that identity shift, I think, changed a lot of how I responded to adversity. And there's kind of been there's a little chart I've always looked at, since I've coached, and it talks about how, our feelings, if we let our feelings dictate our actions, it can determine, our identity. That's what our identity becomes. And I think that's what the world does. We let our feelings dictate, like, are we mad? Are we happy? Are we sad? Like we talk about happiness all the time, joy, like how do we find that? And like, what do we find it in? And then whatever it is, that's how we act. And then that's who we become. And I think flipping that on its head, starting with, I have to know who I am, and who I am in Jesus is my identity. When I know that, regardless of what happens in my life, that's what I act on. Like my actions are determined by my identity in Christ. And I think then my feelings, I can start to control those feelings a little bit more. I can say, all right, like this was tough, this sucks, but my identity is in Christ, and I can do this because that, and I can be happy regardless. I can find joy regardless. I can control my anger because of this. And so I think just knowing who you are and finding that identity, and let your actions be dictated by that, as opposed to feeling, as a huge way to deal with adversity.
Yeah, that's great. That chart, it's a good. I really enjoyed that. Drew, any thoughts to add or things to say? Don't want to take the mic from you. Sorry.
No, it's all good. This is kind of stuff he talks about, and it's just awesome to kind of be around and learn from him. And I get this stuff every day, so it's pretty awesome. Can't complain.
That's great. On a lighter note, go ahead.
I had to pay Drew a lot of money to say that.
Yeah, it's a nice new Under Armour quarter zip you got there. So on a lighter note, what are some of your favorite memories of being a college basketball coach, aside from obviously coaching me?
Yeah, I mean, coaching you at Bethel was definitely number one. Nothing else really comes close. Also, Drew was our office intern when he was in high school, so I have a lot of good memories with him and Ryan, and Ryan M in the office. Like, just Drew was always the quiet guy, but would have a lot of fun with him, and that was kind of where we first started to connect, was way back then. So those are always really cool memories and the relationships. But I think ultimately, like, I know this is a very broad answer, but just the different relationships I've had in coaching with the guys, with coaches, and you start getting, the longer you do this, you start getting invited to people's weddings, and you start having guys call you up and say, hey coach, I'm going through this issue with my wife, or like, how do I handle this with my coworker, or and I think that's the stuff where you made an impact and you made an influence on somebody, because they still trust you years later, to come back and ask for help or ask for advice. And like, that stuff is truly special to me. I coached you 7 years ago or something like that. And we still can talk and share things, and that kind of stuff is special. And so those are ultimately my favorite memories. And there's so many of those. The relationships are huge. I think just from purely a basketball standpoint, like, we had a couple times at Stetson where we went into some bigger, we went to South Carolina one year. Stetson hadn't beat a SEC school in a long time, and we went up there after South Carolina had just beat Virginia on the road, who was the number one team in the country at the time. And then Stetson comes in a couple days later, and we beat them. And I just remember that was just a really cool experience being part of something like that where nobody expects you to do something and you go in with that underdog mentality. And I just love those type of moments, like when the odds are against you, nobody believes in you, and you can come together as a group of people and do something special. And thankfully, in coaching, that stuff happens quite often, and we get to share that with a group of people. And again, like we talk about this being an adventure, that's why it's an adventure, because you never know what's going to happen. You're doing it with people you love, and so those are some really cool things that I've experienced. But this could be a long conversation if I went through all the memories through the year. But it's pretty fun thing to do.
Yeah, that's great. It's you've had some cool coaching experiences. One of my favorite memories with you is not necessarily even. I mean, there's been you were one of those assistant coaches that like to get under the first group's skin, and you'd call fouls on us or wouldn't call fouls against the other team or stuff like that during practice. And there were times where some teammates that keep unnamed might have charged at you or something like that. But those memories aside, one of my favorite memories is actually we were on a road trip somewhere, and I was exploring going into ministry. That's why part of the reason why I transferred to Bethel. But I had no idea what it looked like. And you just so willing. It was early on. It must have been when we were going to Wisconsin or something, or Iowa. Early on in the season, we were still kind of getting to know each other, and you just you connected me with one of your pastors when you were in South Carolina and his church, and just had an internship offer lined up for me, like that type of stuff. You connected me with a player and coach that you knew that was also a pastor at a church and did speaking, so that got me connected with him. And just your willingness to, like you kind of talked about, coach beyond the 4 years or 2 years of the year that you're coaching that person on the court. You really intentionally, even while you were coaching me on the court, you were coaching beyond as well, and whatnot. And so that was a really cool thing. Also, like your knowledge and use of analytics was unique, at least back when you coached me. I was a terrible defender. I'm slow and unathletic, and really would rather just let a team shoot twos, and then I'll go down and shoot a three. But you were able to give me different pointers as we're going into practices and pre games, and even in timeouts. You would pull me aside and just, hey, if he dribbles to his left, more often than not, he's going to a pull up. If he goes to his right, he's going all the way to the rim. Just some ways to kind of catch up, and really helping an unathletic player like myself get as many advantages as I can. So not only you're a wise coach on the court, but you coach me beyond the court as well, which I really appreciate. And I'm excited that you get the opportunity to pour into my brother as well as just the guys that you have there on the team. So Drew, any thoughts to add? Any memories you have with Wingreen so far?
I mean, back in the office at Bethel when I was a little high schooler, as an intern, but just a lot of laughs, a lot of memories, and him, Ryan M, Coach Lightfoot, just good times for sure. But since I've been here, just how him and his family has taken me and Katie in has been awesome. They always just tell us to come over whenever, so we've been able to hang out. And when that hurricane came, we were able to go over there, and just it feels like another home. So it's just been awesome how they've invited us, and it kind of feels like we're family. So it's been fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I know our family up here in Indiana appreciates the Wingreens and the support they've had for you and Katie. All right, so with that, we will just move on to our final question for this sports section. Just advice you would give, Coach, to either a young athlete that might be looking at you like, hey, if you want to get recruited by this guy, or possibly someone who's in a similar situation to where you were, someone who's exploring coaching and whatnot. What's some advice you would give?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned over coaching, like when I was, Drew's age, just getting into coaching, and I was willing to do whatever I needed to do. Like I'll take whatever job is out there, whoever wants to hire me. Like I didn't really care about culture a whole lot. Like I did care about it, but as far as getting a job, I was like, man, I don't care. Like I'll go coach for whoever. And the longer I've done this, and the more I've been around, different coaches, different programs, I've seen, lives impacted. Like I think my biggest advice is just surround yourself with the right people. Like make the priorities right. Like don't make winning everything. Don't let a certain level. Like I always wanted to be a Division I coach. Like that was my dream. That was my goal. And like I was willing to do whatever to get there. And you get to that level and it's awesome. There's a lot of really cool experiences, the arenas you get to play in, the media attention, the opportunity to go to March Madness, like it's awesome. But day to day, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And you don't get to always make the impact you want. There's not as much of the, sometimes your purpose is lacking. And I think as my kids get older, I mature in my marriage, like this stuff matters. And so find the people you can do life with, find a position that you can, make your family a priority. I think that's one thing I love about New College is, yes, we're going to try and play the best basketball possible, and we're going to put the resources in to compete at a high level. But I also have the ability to be there with my family, and I have the ability to impact people on the court, off the court. And so I think that's my biggest advice for, both players and coaches is like, don't go chasing a paycheck. Don't go chasing a level. Like life is bigger than that. There's things that matter more. And, you chase that stuff and you're still going to feel empty. Like it's not going to fulfill you. So chase after the things that do fulfill you, which, for me is Jesus, my family. So that'd probably be my biggest piece of advice.
That's good. That's really good advice. People, if you're listening, take notes because that's really good. So with that wraps up our sports section. We're going to be diving into our leadership section now. We're going to be talking actually about another Bible verse, but this is actually also, it was on Forbes 100 list of best leadership quotes. It was actually in the top 10. And it comes from the book of Proverbs 29:18. And this is what it says: where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And again, that's from Proverbs 29:18. The reason I want to talk about this as far as our leadership perspective goes is because you two, as coaches at New College of Florida, are a part of building something new. Obviously, New College has been around for quite some time as the Honors College of Florida and whatnot, but their athletic program has not. And so you guys get the opportunity to be part of, Drew, for you, year 2 in a college basketball program. Wingreen, for you, you were part of year 1, and now you're heading into year 2. So how has vision played a role in who you are as a leader?
Yeah, I mean, it's a special opportunity to start something from scratch. It's a heck of an undertaking. Like it's hard. It's been a whirlwind, but I think, like you said, there's just so much enjoyment in a challenge of creating something from nothing. And so my vision for this program, like I think with our location, with our resources, I mean, I think we can be one of the best programs in the country. And I think it's going to take some time, but the sky's the limit. And so I want people who are willing to take on some challenges. Like it's not going to be super convenient right away, right? We don't have our own facility. We're still starting out athletics, so there's a lot of bumps in the road as we try and figure out just how to do game day operations, how to buy things. But I'm looking for people who are willing to, jump on board and they see the bigger picture of what this can be. And when I was at Bob Jones, we also started the athletic program there. And so I'd kind of done this before and seen it. And at the time I was an assistant, so I didn't have as many responsibilities. But looking back now, it's been 12 years since that program started. And there's still a lot of pride that I have, knowing where that program came from and what it's at now. And, getting people who can kind of buy into that same vision here is like, we have the ability and the freedom to make this thing how we want it to be. So let's take that as a huge responsibility, a fun responsibility, but like this can be a special place, and not only for winning championships, but for impacting lives. And how do we find the best of both worlds? And so I think we've brought the right people in who are on board with that. They understand the commitment it's going to take. They understand like the standard that they are able to set. They're willing to go through the process with us. And I think as far as the vision goes, it's huge just to know where you want to go and how you want to get there. Like creating the steps to get there is the challenge, but we're very intentional with how we want to get there and what we want to do. So it's been fun. And I think in any leadership, endeavor you take on, like you starting, not starting a church, but taking over a church, obviously it's hard, and you have to stay true to your beliefs. You have to be firm in what you what you believe, and don't get knocked off just because someone disagrees with you. Like you have to have a little bit of a conviction of what's important and what matters. So it's important to chase after that and stay firm in what you're going at.
Yeah, that's really good. And I'm glad you mentioned my situation as well, because it's easy to, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting a business, if you're starting a basketball program, obviously vision's something you have to do. But there's something that's underrated that I'm learning, now is taking over a church a few months in. The church can be doing everything right, but if new leadership comes on, there's going to be some variations of vision as well that the new leadership's going to have to take on. And so actually the second month that I was there, the entire month we spent on the vision that we're heading into as a church, and recognizing that it's not saying that there was anything wrong with what the church was doing, but it's where we're heading moving forward. Because if I try to be exactly like my predecessor, I'm going to not be the best version of myself, and I'm also not going to be the best version of my predecessor as well. And so I appreciate you mentioning as well that vision is not just something that startups need, that new entrepreneurs need, but it's something that every leader needs, because where there is no vision, the people perish, as Proverbs says. With that, I'd love to hear some more leadership thoughts on that you have. You've had different positions, different titles as you've gone throughout your coaching career. How have you found ways to lead regardless of where you are on the totem pole?
Yeah, I think a big lesson I'm especially learning right now is how important it is for me to lead myself first. I think as a young leader, it was, I read all the books, I listen to the podcasts, and it's like, okay, I can go throw this at other people, right? But at the same time, I'm not really living that way, or I'm not doing those things. And I think, again, the more mature I got, and as I elevated in position and title, like you kind of have to just naturally figure that stuff out. And so now that I've been, going into year 2 of the head coach position here, like if I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not leading myself well, I have nothing in my cup to fill the people around me. So I think in the past, it's been easier to just kind of throw what at other people and hope it sticks. But when you're the boss, and you have to, like, every decision falls on you, and you're the one responsible for everything under you, like it just kind of creates more pressure. And I have to make sure that I'm filling my cup up with the right things, and I'm staying in the word, I'm staying in scripture, I'm leading my family well. If I can do those things, I can lead my team well. But that's been a big thing for me, is just finding ways to stay locked in myself, and that I can, I think every good leader like knows the way. They kind of know what to do, but they don't always show it. Like they don't show the way. And I think as a leader, I need to, if I want people to come with me, I need to show the way, and I need to put that blueprint down on paper and, make it happen. So that's been a big leadership thing I've been learning lately.
Yeah, that's good. You actually knocked out like 2 questions in one. So well done to you. Drew, what thoughts do you have as you've been able to see him, kind of lead you, but also setting the example of leading himself as well? What are some thoughts you have?
Yeah, he talks about he was an assistant for a long time, so he's still trying to take on this new head coaching role. But guys have told me, and I've seen it, just the growth from year 1 to year 2, from what I've heard, has been really cool. And it's, yeah, like you talked about, you got to lead yourself, and all of us kind of look to you for advice, and when we need things done or anything. So you taking care of yourself has been a huge part of that, and you have the support with your wife, with your family, and surrounded with good people like Kyle and just so many others who have helped you. But yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thanks. Good assistants make good coaches. Good players make good coaches. Good assistants make good coaches. So again, that's why you put the right people around you. That's the most important thing as a leader. So have other people make you look good.
There we go. You heard it here, folks. Heard it first, folks. Good assistants, good players make good coaches. Probably didn't hear it here first. It's probably been said before, but that's okay. We'll give you credit. All right, last question. Speaking of, you mentioned some of those assistant coaches. Who are some leaders that have shaped your leadership and who you are?
Yeah, so I referenced those 2 coaches I had in college. Pete Weary and Paul Witt. Coach Weary now is actually, he does a lot of stuff with Nations of Coaches, which I know you have done some character coaching with them before, but he was a big impact in my life. And Paul Witt, who was the women's basketball coach at the school, he's a pastor now, but have just kept up with both those guys, talk about sports, talk about, Coach Witt's a big Packers fan, so we text during Packers games, but those guys have impacted my life a lot. Obviously, every coach I've worked under has impacted me in one way or another. I think, being at Stetson with Donnie Jones was absolutely incredible. He's one of the best guys I know, and the way that he relates to people and the way he connects with people, puts family first, while being at a Division I school where there's a lot of pressure to win. I think I learned how to work with people a lot from him. And so it was great to just kind of almost be a fly on the wall sometimes to see how situations were handled, see how he, led through adversity. And then you kind of hear the behind the scenes talk and you see it, come to life with the team. And there's just, leadership is a lot of innovation. Like it's not cookie cutter. You have to adjust and adapt to what's going on. And Donnie's one of the best guys I've ever seen do that. So yeah, I've been around a lot of great people, and even a lot of great players who, even though I'm coaching them, like they teach me a lot by the way they push back or they ask questions, and it makes me think. And so I don't think there's ever an opportunity that you should miss where working with people, you can always learn something. So, try and glean from anybody who's out there. And if you have a conversation and can build a relationship, there's probably something that you can be taught. So, I've been thankful that I've been around a lot of great people in my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I mentioned when we introduced you, you're one of the most connected coaches in America, and because people speak so highly of you. Someone like Coach Donnie Jones, who would say such nice things about you and having you on his staff, and I'm excited for you to take over this new college program. I mean, I don't know if he is a Hall of Fame coach, but he should be, or he will be. He's won a ton of basketball games, and it's a great guy doing that. So that's awesome. Drew, any last thoughts as we get ready to close?
No, it's awesome. I'm excited to start this season with Mr. Wingreen. It's going to be fun adventure for us.
Absolutely. And if you want to follow along with that adventure, make sure you go follow New College of Florida Mighty Banyans Athletics, their basketball program. Go to the website. If you're down in the Florida area near Sarasota, get to some games because it's NAIA basketball, it's the hidden gem, as Kyle Mangus would say, in all of sports. You're going to see some competitive games, some great basketball players, some great coaches, as you've heard from already. And so make sure you go support New College of Florida basketball. Coach Wingreen, it's been such an honor and a privilege to have you join us. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you guys. And I really mean this. I'm proud of both of you guys. It's been awesome to see your growth and seeing you guys grow as men. And you're both married, and Ryan, you're having kids, and I'm sure Drew at some point will have kids, but I'm just proud of you guys and the growth you've shown, and love your family. We're praying for your family and everything. So thanks for having me on, and it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. For all of you still listening, for Coach Wingreen, for Coach Drew Lutz, and for myself, thank you so much for listening in. This is the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. We hope it was an encouragement for you. Have a great rest of your week.
At least Mom will be listening.
So if you bring up counter stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.